Thank you for joining me today. I'm Madeline Blair, and this is Unlocked. You can't have a successful career without knowing how to deal with the unexpected, and Unlocked is here to help you. If you're a person who sets goals that challenge you to fully reach your potential, this show is for you. This is a show all about opening possibilities, so that when you are hit with the unexpected, you have options from which to choose. You can learn more about the show on my website, madelineblair.com/unlockedtv. In fact, you can see all of the replays of earlier shows right there. And if you have topic ideas or comments, just email them to me at madeline@madelineblair.com. Are you curious about the background of the show? Check out my book, Unlocked: Discover How to Embrace the Unexpected, available on Kindle, audio, and paperback. And if you would like to explore what it means to build and nurture your resilience with me, be sure to sign up for my mailing list on my website, madelineblair.com. I'll keep you informed about my new group mentoring program, Unlocking Together. Our topic today is called, What's the Point? And today we're going to be exploring what it means to be an entrepreneur, to grow something wonderful from the ground up. Every entrepreneur out there knows that starting also begins with the pain point of your customer and how your idea can address it. Now, as you all know, Ed Hoffman joins me on these, usually as what we call explorations. Hello, Ed.
Hi, Madeline. How are you?
I am well. And yourself?
Doing wonderful. Good to be back with you.
Good. Well, today we're not going to do explorations like we usually do, because I want you to stay on and be my co-host today so that we can explore what it means to stay up to date in a world that conspires to keep moving the goal just beyond our reach. And we'll be doing so with someone who has decided to help us all do exactly that. Our guest today is Tuan Ho. Tuan, welcome to Unlocked.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you. Well, let me introduce you to the audience and to Ed. Maybe, Ed, you haven't heard this either. Tuan came to the U.S. at the age of 10 from Vietnam. He started his first tech company at age 20 while attending Northeastern University studying mechanical engineering. And because of his work, Tuan was recognized as Bostino's 25 under 25 and Forbes 30 under 30 at the age of 23. And he has given away around $100,000 in scholarships. And Tuan, I want to hear more about that. And is currently building an AI communication technology company, called The Point AI. He does mixed martial arts in his free time, and he skates with his Malamute husky. Tuan's motto is making kindness fun and cool. So again, welcome, Tuan, to Unlocked, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Ed, I hope that you are as duly impressed as I was when I read through.
Beyond. Yeah.
I mean, it's just amazing what you've done at your age. I mean, I remember at 28, I had achieved some pretty significant things, but you beat me with 2 companies.
I wouldn't do the comparison, I don't think.
Oh, well, you'd be surprised. Okay. Now, you have had an interesting life, and you're at the age where most people are just starting out. I think it would be good to let our audience know even a bit more before we get into the subject of today's conversation. You're known for building something wonderful from the ground up. So tell the audience a bit about yourself and how you came to where you are today.
Yeah. So I came to the US when I was 10, and I live in Dorchester, Boston, which is basically considered like Brooklyn of New York. basically the hood, essentially. I still remember kind of like getting water from like a public water source with my mom, standing in the cold and living on food stamps and stuff like that. That was when I was 10. So just me, my older brother, and my mom. We didn't have much. And so for the longest time, she just told me like, hey, focus in school. And that was it. That was the only thing I did, was to focus in school. But in Vietnam, the education system is very different. They focus primarily on memorization. And so when I went to school to the US, I thought every single thing was so easy. Because I remember so much so fast. And I thought school was so easy that I finished homework before I leave school. So then I've never needed to do homework at home. And so middle school and high school kind of felt like a breeze. And that's not to say that I was smart at anything. The problem with me is that I'm a slow learner, but I am willing to put in as many hours as possible to get to the point of proficiency. So as long as there's time, I can make it happen. And so when I first applied to college, I got accepted to Northeastern. Actually, no, even before that, I'm going to use the current SAT scale for younger audience out there if they come across this show. But basically, first time I took the SAT, I got like a 900 out of like 1600, which is like a really low score, by the way. Like, how do you have straight A's in school and get a really low score on the SAT? That make no sense to me, right? And so my thought was, well, the brain, you get better at doing the same things over and over again. Your brain just adapt to it. And so what I did during my high school, during the SAT period, was that every single time I leave school, I would take a practice exam as I get home before the day is over. And so I took over 27 practice exam in the span of 3 months and boost my score by 400 points. And that got me into a really good score, like 100 points shy away from like the Ivy League type deal. But I was like, all right, whatever, I'll work with what I got. And then I got accepted to Northeastern University. But because my family couldn't pay for it, it was like $60K a year to go. I couldn't imagine how much it's cost now. So I was like, maybe I just don't go. I don't know. So what I did was I have to figure out a way to get through this. And I wrote 120 essays to apply for 40 scholarship. And I was fortunate enough to earn about $500,000 worth of scholarship. So I went to Northeastern on a full ride. So
just hard work, huh?
Yeah. Determination, part of it too is like trusting that I'm lucky, right? It's something that I believe in. It's that things just make sense for me. So I just need to keep pushing forward. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Anything else you're curious about?
Oh, no, I got just a few things. But
Yeah.
that gives me such insight into your determination, which is one of the reasons why I think you've been so successful so quickly. I'm not going to ask you that. I always have questions ahead of time. You know that I always plan these things, but I don't like my next question. So I think I'm going to ask this one. You said you were there with your mother and your brother.
Mm-hmm.
You have said in the past that your mother played an important part in your life. In what ways did she support you the most?
Do my laundry for me. Sometimes. But you know, I think about this quite often. It's like, what exactly is privilege? Right? I'm just like, well, privilege is kind of like the things that you have that other people don't. Right? And so I was privileged to have a mother that just loves me so much. And other people get off on the riches as privilege. I got off on love. Right? That was the privilege that I had. My mom was able to alleviate certain capacity for me so that I could have more capacity to pursue the things that I want to pursue and work harder than most people. And I'm happy to lean on that. Some people don't want to lean on that. It's like, I want to do every single thing myself and all that stuff, right? I don't need my mom and all that stuff. It's like, why? Why don't you tap into the power of family, right? We're not here alone. We're here and we're made it because of the people that we love and the people we work with. So there's no shame of asking for help, especially when it comes to your mother. So therefore, I lean on my mom for those chores, those things that I felt like was unimportant at the time. But not that I can't do it myself, obviously. But I felt like when time was needed, she was there for me. When I was busy, like doing things, she was like, "Hey, I'll do your laundry for you." Like, it's shave off 2 hours of my time, which I could spend like reading or taking another meeting or something like that. And so that was really important. So she played an important role, not only for that, but also understanding where I am.
Mhm.
So it took me forever to build, I think up to when I was 20 years old is when I started to have a good relationship with my mother. Before that, I was a rebellious teenager. I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. Right. But when I was 20, I read 250 books in 6 months. Instead of like working on my co-op at Northeastern as a manufacturing engineer, I basically was a horrible intern for that company, essentially. But I did spend a lot of time investing in my brain, and that's when my brain started to go and explode with imagination and ideas. And that
Tuan, you just broke up, so I'm
yep,
gonna.
yep.
You're
Which
coming
part?
back in, so you just have to repeat that.
So after I read 250 books, my brain was just exploding with ideas and imagination. And that's when I was able to talk philosophy in Vietnamese with my mom.
Wow.
And so the moment I was able to kind of put all that together, kind of explain to my mom like what I see and how much I appreciate her, and just kind of be like, hey, like I see all the sacrifices that you've made, and I'm gonna try my best to make sure that that's rewarded, right? All that in Vietnamese. And so from there, we just had such a good relationship with each other, and my mom's the best thing I could ever ask for.
Wow. You actually bring tears to my eyes because my mother's pretty important to me too, even though she's now long gone.
Yeah.
And I want,
Actually, I want to maybe I'll save that for last, actually.
okay.
Remember to bring this back up for my parting words. Yeah.
All right. I will. Ed, I want to open a segue for you to get in and ask your questions.
Yeah, while I'm listening to you talk, I'm thinking you're an explorer, and I don't know if that's right or not, but it seems like to me, explorers are interested, they're curious, they're willing to take risks that maybe others wouldn't. They go in different directions. Do you see yourself somewhat as an explorer, and what is it about, if so, exploring that interests you?
There's this concept of like, if you go and explore alone, that's a journey. That's a journey because you go by yourself. But you go with other people, that's an adventure. Right. And so part of the exploration is like, you don't know what you don't know. And so the more you know, the more interesting life becomes. And so I've always been curious about multiple different aspects of things and why, like say, for example, you can just pick out any random niche in the world and you're just like, how do people become interested in this? How does people make this their life? For example, skateboarding or magic trick. Like what makes it appealing? And that to me is really interesting. It's like I'm sitting here in my own head all the time thinking about the things that I like or something like that. But then when it comes to understanding humans, it's an adventure in and of itself. Getting to know someone, it's an adventure in and of itself. And so not just only exploring human as a whole, but also exploring how everything came to where it is today. Looking at history from the past, how things have changed. We've evolved as human beings because we built better technology and better tools. I mean, look at the hammer, look at the fire, right? We build tools to advance human civilization, and then we take it into an abstract concept and build society, policies. And then now I think we're coming into an age of psychology. It's where psychology is being tested with its own limits. We're building tools to be able to combat that with therapists and all that stuff. So now we have better understanding of self-awareness of who we are and other people. And so all of that fascinates me because where are we going? Where are we going with all of this as a society and as a person? I always think of person as an entire universe out in and out of itself. You can never understand a person truly. Mm-hmm. So that's what makes it exciting.
It does. It's that, last week I talked to somebody about long-term relationships. And in the end, that's why a marriage really can last a very long time, because if you're curious about that other person, it never ends what you unveil as you get to know them. But speaking of unveiling, in my intro to you, I said that you had already given away over $100,000 in scholarships. Was that through your program called ScholarJet?
Yes. So where that comes from was actually after I read 250 books. I had the idea of what if I was to give away scholarships? Because I benefited from a scholarship, right? What if I just give away $1,000? And then I thought about, well, I don't want to do it just all by myself. Let's rope in some other people. Maybe they can contribute like $300 or something. And then we're going to send this application out, and then students will write essays to apply for this $1,000 scholarship. And I'm just like, but I don't want to read any of these essays. I was like, I don't know who's telling the truth. Like, I kind of want to know them, right? And I was like, why don't I just challenge them to do like 100 push-ups, for example, in like a row, right? At least I created something for a person to pursue. Or I can challenge them like, hey, read 5 of these books and write book report on in terms of what you think about certain things. Like that was more beneficial than just tell me about your life. Oh, does it suck? Oh, if it sucked, then you deserve this, right? No, that's not it, right? And so that gave birth to the idea behind ScholarJet. The reason why I named it ScholarJet instead of scholarship was because it's faster and it's better. We were about to do a Scholar Rocket too, with the NASA theme, but that URL was taken. So. But we basically, the idea behind ScholarJet was, what if we created a way for students to earn a scholarship or pay off student loan debt by showcasing what they are really good at, what they're capable of, create things, build things. So we got tech companies to help us fund these scholarship competition as a way to also hire entry-level talent. So instead of like submitting your resume for a software engineering job, you can just like code an app that's proposed by a company for a challenge. Or instead of hiring salespeople through a resume, you can propose people to create a sales pitch. So that was the idea. And we sold to Toast, Akamai Technology, Wayfair, like a lot of big companies. And I was running that for 5 years. And we gave away almost 100K worth of scholarships. And then the pandemic hits. And unfortunately, we lost 90% of our customers during that time because all of the entry-level talent was being let go. And we just didn't have enough cash to continue on. And so that was when I made the hardest, but also biggest decision to kind of have to stop the adventure there with all the people on my team, which I think it was really touching for me to at least know that they told me that we will stop when you stop, right? And so it was me sitting in the office all by myself for like 3 months, kind of trying to figure out if we can pivot into another idea or not. We try every single thing we possibly can, right? And then I made the hard decision to close it down, which nowadays, right, when I talk about this, everyone has almost the same question. Why don't you start it back up? I'm like, look, it's not about the idea. It's not about the company. It's about the people. My team right now well, my former team now, they're doing really well on their own. And I would never want to take that away from them, the life that they have now, to come back and like suffer again, right? But maybe for something else, maybe it's something else in the future, but not right now.
Oh, wow. But what you have done is you have now started a new company. And I think a rather interesting one. Why don't you talk about that a little bit? And then, yeah, just talk about that a little bit, because I know that Ed's going to come in on this one.
Yeah. So as I was going through the pandemic, I asked myself, like, what am I going to do next? And what am I passionate about? And I kind of sit down and I realized about myself, like, hey, English was my second language. And as I was working with my co-founder at the time, his name is Joseph Billy, and he's absolutely the smartest person I've ever met. And he have always been there trying to correct my communication skills the whole way through. And he's kind of helped me shaped me the way that I speak into who I am today. But until I realized, after I read the book called The Dyslexic Advantage, I believe it says something around like 60% of CEOs are dyslexic. I read the book and I was like, every single chapter speaks to me about the way that I think and the way that I talk. And so after that, I was like, wow, I might be dyslexic here. And so I've thought about human communication for so long. Like, how do we achieve our dreams, our goals? Is to speak to another person, to get them to join the team, is to persuade them on an idea, to express how I'm feeling. Doing all of that might sound easy, and most people think it's easy, but it's extremely complex. There are so many psychological tools, tactics, and tricks. And I'm going to give you a clear example of what bad communication is inside an intellect, right? Professors at schools, they can be super smart, but if they can't explain thermodynamics to a 5-year-old, then how can you pass that knowledge on to another person, right? And so the point AI stemmed from the fact that, what if I can build an AI assistant tool to help people understand what's going on in any particular communication situation and suggest the best way to approach that? Asking for a raise, understanding a person's communication aspect, direct or indirect. In Asia, they don't like to do direct. They like to talk about the clouds and the weather and the birds before they dive into business. But over in the US, what's the point? Get straight to business, right? It's like, don't stop saying, hope your week is going well in your email. My week is going well. What's the deal, right? Don't hesitate to ask any question. I know I will ask if I have questions, right? So culture is very different. And so as a whole, I thought that communication itself is the link between individuals, the link between cultures, the link between nations, but also the things that unite us and help drive humanity forward. Imagine what a society would be like if we weren't able to talk to each other. So that's, well, and it's a whole different concept, but that's like the ultimate vision of where the company is going. But right now we're starting out small by summarizing the emails that you receive, because you receive like really long-winded emails and you just kind of want to know what's the point of that email is. And that's why I named the company The Point AI.
Fantastic. You know, I think AI stimulates a mix of emotions. In fact, this morning on the New York Times, Ezra Klein talked about AI and all the questions that we're not asking about AI. And I'm just interested, what are the factors that you think lead people to feel concerned about AI? And do you attempt to or even think about addressing those in your implementation?
I just think that it's so complex that it's like not a single individual can have a grasp of this. But I can share with you sort of like what I think. And it's a little bit scary for sure right now. And I actually watched the latest episode of John Oliver before this. And I'm not sure if you've both seen it, but there's the black box problem of people not understanding why AI think the way that they think, and that's concerning, right? But before going into that, I kind of think that AI is a natural consequence of humans. We are oftentimes looking for ways to enhance ourselves, whether or not it is to enhance our strength. Like think about back in the day, like before an invention of a hammer, we use a stick or a tree to like hammer down things, but then we built an enhancement on top of an enhancement. Now we're getting to the point of peak human intellect. Why do I say that? It's because peak human intellect introduces peak human problems. We are experiencing so much problems in this world that human cannot solve. So we need to create an enhancement of our own intelligence to be able to tackle that. And that's where the danger lies, is because most people don't even understand themselves. And so to create an AI, we will never truly understand an AI. And so I believe that there's a threshold at some point where we cross that bridge, we're never going back. But we're lucky. According to Moore's law, every single thing is accelerating at an exponential pace. I think AI accelerate much faster than that. So a lot of things will change within 5 years, not 10. And so I'm starting to see correlation between the internet boom and bust, but also the crypto, blockchain, Web3 boom and bust. But AI, it's ready now. It's not busting, it's booming pretty well. And so that's the idea. It's like we don't understand it enough, but we also can't slow down. And so this is, I'm expressing what I see. I also don't know the solution.
Ed, this reminds me of your course that you talked about, the fact that you teach exploring future of work.
Navigating.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry. I mean, if things are changing this rapidly, talk about that.
I think that, so first of all, my brain is exploding because I have many questions, but I'll calm down and we'll have a little conversation. I think the biggest challenge, one of the biggest challenges I see with the students I see with the organizational leaders I consult to, with the government agencies, is the constant uncertainty based on speed of change. I grew up at a time where I started work where you kind of knew what was going to happen. So if you developed your expertise, if you developed your capabilities, you'd be good for decades, right? Nowadays, that really isn't the issue. Nowadays, you can be great. Next year, it changes, even before next year. So what's the capacity for humans, for people, for teams, for societies to keep reinventing? And I think, to me, the future of work is broadly about two things. About the people. It's about the human element, and it's about technology that is there to support people. And so it's going to go to one of my questions I wanted to ask. I love you talk about making kindness cool. I love that because I think that means that you're doing good things for people, for humans, which I think is the number one goal. What does that mean, making kindness cool? How did you come to that? And how do you go about making kindness cool?
No one ever asked me this. I left that on my LinkedIn bio for so long.
I love it. Yeah.
And no one ever asked me this, and because I put it there for a reason. A lot of people misunderstood the difference between kindness and niceness. I don't want to be nice to people. I think nice is very manipulative. I want to be kind, right? And kindness is not easy. Kindness requires intelligence, knowledge, high IQ, high EQ, right? You can practice kindness by being wrong. right? So you have to be willing to be wrong all the time. So let me give you an example. And this will happen a lot for the both of you. Actually, I would assume so because you went through many tracks of life and talked to a lot of people. Sometimes when I'm going through a hard time, I would actually, let me bring up something more tangible than this. One of my previous relationship that I had, I was with this woman who wanted to be there for me. And whenever I vent something to her, she wanted to figure out a way to make me feel better. Obviously, it's a natural tendency to do. But because every single advice or every single thing she says, I already know, like the wisdom behind it. So I just kind of like, I kind of don't want you to tell me anything, honestly. I just want you to listen. Right. And so for the longest time, I thought that was special for me. It was like, I didn't need anyone to give me advice on how to handle my emotions or whatever. I just needed people to listen. Until recently, I met someone who's just like, was really verbalizing, like venting to me. And then I jump immediately in the mode of, let me give you some advice, right? I was like, I don't know why that is a thing, but then now I'm starting to learn slowly that, hey, well, she told me, like, I just want to vent. Like, I don't want to hear your advice, right? And so I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. Now I can relate. So then all I did was listen. And I just completely stay quiet. And tying that to kindness, because being nice is very different.
Yeah.
Right?
I love what you're saying. And I don't, nice. I've seen nice. I would tell people when I worked at NASA, please don't be nice to me if nice means you have to lie to me, because then we get no place. And I had a couple of people who they were yellers at a different time, and they would yell at me about what I didn't do. And I'd have people come up saying they shouldn't do that. And I said, well, if the only way they can communicate what's working or what's not in our relationship, then I appreciate what they're doing, because they're making that kind of awareness. So I think your separation of kindness and niceness is so important. The biggest danger to teams and society, I think, is silence, organizational silence. We see things, but we don't say it. We don't say it sometimes. We don't want to hurt anybody. And yet we destroy them because we don't say anything. So I think I love what you're saying about the importance of communication. I would get personally asked the question of in 10 seconds, how do you, what leads to an effective team or a project? And I would say noise. The most effective teams are noisy. They argue, they laugh, they have fun. I mean, that's why Madeline and I work, I think, well together. There's always something happening. And so I love what you're talking about, that connection of kindness.
So, yeah, niceness create that barrier to get to the truth. And so niceness also comes from the fact that everyone wants to be liked. But eventually we realize that we're not everyone's cup of tea. Yeah. Right? And so
you have to be brave. Like I said, you're an explorer, because there's risk. If you don't want any risk, then literally you have to stay in your house and not do anything, right? And even that then there's a different kind of risk. But as an explorer, you have to be confident. You have to be willing for people not to like you or to tell you things. So there's a lot to this. You're an explorer to kindness and to AI, and that mixture between the technology and human capacity is, I think, so essential.
I mean, life is risky. No one's getting out alive.
Right.
No one's getting out alive.
Not that we know of.
Right.
Unless the AI takes over and we.
I do have a theory. Like, we need to be intermixing with AI.
Yeah.
To win, like cyborgs, essentially. But we'll see where that goes.
See where that goes.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned earlier, Tuan, about your team of ScholarJet. And I loved your comment that you did not want to draw them back out of their new lives and essentially risk their sense of accomplishment in scholarship. I really thought that was very sensitive, a very kind thing to think about, by the way. Now, when you're forming the Point AI, how did you assemble then a new team? I mean, the labor market right now is really kind of strange. It's very tight, and yet the big tech companies are letting people go. So how did you leverage that opportunity about your team? You must have a team to work with.
Yeah, and I truly count on my team for the majority of the things that the success that come across. Like I'm just driving the boat forward. I'm navigating. I'm figuring out the direction. But the team built the tool, organized things, and I'm just a mascot. So building a team, I believe, is one of my strengths. Getting people, rallying people, and get excited about an idea is where my strength lies, and I want to lean on that. I want to lean on the leadership capabilities and the ability to make things work cohesively. Word choice, what to say, what not to say, and to understand where the other person is coming from. The people who are on my team believes in me and believes in the product, but also believes in each other, right? And so the way that you go about that, I actually went through 12 or 15 people in the span of like 6 months of trying to figure out who's the right person. Well, you need to get people on board right away when they're first initially excited. And then if they fall off, then they fall off and they're not the right people. But you have to continue getting people on board, getting people excited. You're doing that with your customers. You're doing that with your investors. You first start with your team. It's your core. Like I said, it's not about the idea or the product or company. It's about the people that's behind it, right? If a tool fell onto the wrong hands, that's not good. And so, yeah, if there's like, is there a particular things or insight about team that you are looking for?
No, I was very curious about how you assembled them, and I hear you just bring them in. You see an initial connection, and you say, "Let's see what happens."
And you're not afraid. You're not afraid of talking to like a CTO of another company and be like, "Hey, this is what I'm working on," and you're like, people think to themselves like, "Who am I to reach out to this person? Who am I to reach out and talk about this?" Right? You don't think about that way. Just think simply. You're living on this planet. You have an idea, and you're looking for people to join and make this idea come true. Or another analogy is like you're building this ship. And you're going somewhere in that direction. And you're like, anyone want to join me? Because this journey is going to be hell. But we might or might not find the island, but it'll be amazing. The lessons that you learn along the way, but every single thing in between. And so to do that, that's where you have to come from. It's not a place of like, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if people would believe in me. If you have that, I don't think you can build a team that's cohesive, because any big waves that come by, and I guess I can't really say that, because a lot of people have different life experience and their leadership style is very different. But as the person to get the team together, you need to be the rock.
So let me got to follow up on the team, because most work is done in projects. That's where I spent it at NASA and today. And I find there's a great separation between leaders like yourself who create these dynamic, organic, growing teams, and the majority, which are still very static, very mechanical. And I've seen these team members told, you can tell me anything, you can say anything, you can, take risks, but that people don't. How do you as a leader create this kind of a team for AI Point or for ScholarJet or in the future is it largely from selecting people that you know will have the courage like you to innovate? Or is it by developing people who start working with you to, I don't know, how do you do that? How do you create this team of, they're kind, they're honest, they're forceful, they're creative, they take risks, and you keep moving forward? That's hard to do for many. I would say 70% of the teams that I've seen don't do that. So
It takes a
what's
lot of
your
good people
formula?
skill.
Okay.
And I'd say it's what's available to me. I'm not super rich and like I'm not super well connected in the Beverly Hills of things, right? Like I can't just reach out to like the top person and be like, hey, join my team. I'm just a regular person. I'm just a guy living in Dorchester, Boston. What do I know? But the one thing that I can count on is my ability to understand and empathize with humans. And so I would reach out. If it's someone I know, great. If it's someone I don't know, then I think to myself, what can I say to this person that not only get them excited about the idea, but excited about working with me? And so I'd say part of my secret is that I know that a person has probably one or two things to kind of have a need for. The first thing is purpose. In this day and age where every single thing is swipe right, swipe left, in any aspect of life, relationship, career, or anything, nothing has meaning anymore. It's just a means to an end. But if you're able to give someone a purpose, that rallies them. That gives them the energy to wake up in the morning, to be excited to do the things that they're doing. The energy is just insane. Once you're able to activate that, unlocking the door of purpose is the key to team cohesiveness. You know, these managers you're talking about, yeah, I get that. When you work for these people, you're like, you see that they're trying to be friend, but then behind your head, you're like, you don't want to say things that it's gonna get you fired, right? But if I was to be in the manager's shoes, I'm like, say the things that you think that is gonna get you fired, and I will show you that it will do the exact opposite. It will. If you do that to me, it shows me that I can respect you for it. That you're not afraid to speak your mind. That you're not afraid of being who you are. And so I allow that to happen with my team. I also want to be friends with the people that work with me. And I see them as a human being and not just someone who's expendable. I want to know what they ache for. I don't care what they do. I don't care what they're good at. Especially when I meet anybody, I truly don't care what you do for work. I want to know what you get excited for in the morning. What's your favorite hobbies and why that drives you? And what's your thought process and how you think about humans? And that once you get that with the people on your team, they can do the same back.
So you're expanding the brain. We had spoken before with Madeline about your interest in brain, and brain is so huge when people are interested what aspect of it. But a lot of what you talk about, the kindness, it sounds like working with you would be fun. And we know, I was watching this program on one of the shows called Secrets of Animals. And supposedly animals learn best and they get smarter and smarter the more you play with them, which is the same with humans. And so a lot of what you're talking about, I think, is creating an environment, a culture where the brain can just be unbounded and move forward and stimulated.
The secret is play.
Playful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Serious play.
Serious play.
Serious play. Now, I want to also go back
to be your next company right there. Serious play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can crack that one. The crack there
Hopefully the URL is not taken.
Yeah. It may be now. Yeah.
Oh no.
Well, this hasn't. Well, let's see.
Yeah.
It probably is though. I want to go back, though, to something that you said, Tuan, about your vision for the Point AI. It was so exciting as I heard you say it and describe it to me. I thought, damn, if I were in a different place, I'd have to ask more questions about that to really see if there's a connection there for me, as an ongoing thing. Then you also talked about giving people a purpose, because that's what that vision does. It gives them a purpose. They hang on to that. Now, in my work, it turns out that highly resilient people know who they are. They know their purpose. And that's what keeps them strong when things hit them. And that's probably part of what keeps your teams so effective ongoing, is that they still have that sense of your purpose. And the fact that you take time to explain that, it's very exciting for me to hear.
Well, you're nurturing too. I mean, this is a big compliment that I think the best teams, they're nourished. And nourish really is, I think, about caring for people, creating a safe space, having fun, and the sense that we're in it to take care of each other. It's not an environment where one person wins and everybody else stays behind. And from our conversation, I feel there's a nourishing that takes place.
No one gets
around
left
you.
behind in my
Yeah.
watch.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I can't believe it, but we need to begin.
Oh, no. You got to be kidding me. All right. We just got started, Madeline.
I know. And it always happens. But we still have some time. We have some time. We have got a good 5 minutes here. And that's a lot of time for us. You know that.
Yeah.
Tuan, I want to challenge us, all three of us. This has been such a deep conversation. And the threat of AI, and I'll call it a threat because people don't understand, and I'll put myself in that same category. How can we really prepare ourselves for this new world? Because if you're right, in 5 years, it's going to be an entirely different world. So, Ed, my question is to you too. How can people prepare themselves to really harness this while protecting themselves? Because AI can be very manipulative. It can be used to mislead in many, many negative ways. So that's my question.
Ed, why don't you go first? So maybe I can hop off of you.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I believe inherently in the power of people. And when I was at NASA, most of the work is done by contracts, as you know. And sometimes I would hear government employees, saying, "How do you trust the contractor?" and all this kind of stuff. But they're human, right? And it's how do we work with each other? And when I look at technology, it's a similar kind of a thing. Technology, comes out of humans. It comes out of our biases. It comes out of our opportunities. And I think we need to be thoughtful about this whole notion of kindness, of a focus on doing things that improve society, that generate wealth, that improve ways of doing it, but at the foundation of, doing things that are valued for people. And I don't really worry about AI or chat GBT. I mean, when I was going to school, they gave us calculators. And there's all this big fear of, oh my God, people aren't going to learn math because calculators. And now you've had humans always take tools and get better if our values are about improving society and doing things the right way. So I think we have to stand up to doing things the right way and not use excuses of blaming tools or others for problems we create. That's my view. It's about people.
Tuan?
Do it fast. We need to do it fast. We need to swoop in right now and before it's too late, because one of the things that I'm worried about is that we don't have the ability to be like, we're building a machine to enhance our intelligence, and if we don't understand it, then that's the danger. And I buy into that narrative, what you said, Ed. We have to believe in ourselves to be the people to change that. And right now, I think policy needs to change really quickly. Because if we don't do something quickly, a lot of people will be displaced. And to bring it back to not to get super political, but I read the book that Andrew Yang wrote, something about like the average American or something like that. And it's basically about how AI will change the way that work. And that's why we should give universal basic income, so then people have a chance to figure themselves out and like invest more into their education. And that's why I started my first company in the first place. It was like, education is so big. And when you bring in the calculator, I was like, that's an interesting idea. Because right now everyone's saying like, hey, you don't need to learn how to write or speak.
Yeah.
You can just ask ChatGPT to do it for you.
Yeah.
But then maybe we are evolving into something else entirely different.
Mm-hmm.
But the fear is there for a reason. And fear is a good thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to buy into that. Like, the danger is people not fearing. The danger is people saying like, don't worry about it. It'll sort itself out. Or I don't believe that AI can do X, Y, and Z. The fear make us think better. And I truly believe that humans shape the way that AI works. And so when that fear is there, we have to pay attention closer to the humans behind those tools.
Okay. Now I am going to cut you off because I see the clock getting much closer. And I want to give you a chance, Tuan, to say those final words to people. And you asked me to remind you about your mother.
So I think of this as something very encouraging, right? And it's not meant to discourage people. Every single time I think about this, it gives me more motivation than it used to be, than before. So let me get to a good lighting. So when I was 20, I always thought about, well, I went through a lot of hardship. And I was like, what is the biggest pain that I would ever experience in my entire life that would just like will break me? And I realized that I haven't met that pain yet. But that pain will happen. And I deduce that pain to this. It's losing the people you love. And so when I think about that, I'm like, the most painful day that I will experience in my life is seeing my mom pass away. And if I haven't gotten there yet, then almost every single thing else that I go through, that's absolutely nothing. I can go through anything. And so when that happens, then I can keep moving forward. So thinking about the things on the most painful day that you experience in your life, and realize that the majority of your life, you won't see it yet. So go do the hard things now.
Tuan, I can't, let me say that differently. I'm amazed at your wisdom, given that I know that you are this person who is obviously so young. So congratulations on that score. And thank you so much for being with Ed and me today. Ed, we have about 30 seconds to say let you say a final word, and then I've got to close this.
No, I'm happy to be a part of this with both of you. It's been a kind of a magical conversation for me. I would, when we were thinking, different things pop in my head. And I remember as a child, my favorite book was Where the Wild Things Are by Maurice Sendak. And it again had that feeling of colors and explosion. And it was both a mixture of emotions, being comfortable dealing with your emotions about family and your mom, has to do with the exploration of finding and seeing new things, and realizing that we can deal with what are so-called monsters and just taking on our dreams. But this is a very powerful conversation. I'm really thankful that I didn't be a part of it, Madeline, and to start knowing you, Tuan.
Wish we have another hour. Can we do a podcast?
Well, I think what we're going to do is we should reschedule another session with you,
right?
And let this conversation continue.
Keep going, yeah.
Oh my! Well, thank you. I'm just I have a whole new way of looking at life. So thank you, Tuan. Thank you, Ed. Wow. And let me see. Let's see. Whew. Thank you for joining me on this segment of Unlocked. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And please make a comment in social media about what you learned and might do differently as a result. And if you're on YouTube, click the like button, and better yet, subscribe. I'm Madeline Blair, wishing you infinite possibilities as you unlock your resilience.